Hello?
Yep.
Reverb so bad.
It's fine. I'll fix it. It's fine.
My name is Michael Mansfield. I am the owner and founder of Full Lock Drift, and I'm also, my day-to-day is United States Air Force, so here at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma.
In a world filled with billions of people, there are countless untold stories waiting to be discovered. These untold stories hold the power to inspire, educate, and connect us. Whether you're interested in media, automotive, or just here for a good story, welcome to the Underline podcast.
So you own Full Lock Drift. You do that kind of, I don't want to say it's a side hustle because you make way more money than, side hustles aren't typically like making more than your day job. So we'll call it a second business. So with you doing that, like how did you start in the workforce? Like when you were young, you grew up here in Oklahoma, right?
I did, yeah, in a moderately small town of Lawton.
Oh, you grew up in Lawton.
Yep.
Oh,
The Shady 580 is what they call it. I was kind of born and raised there for the most part, bounced around Alabama and Colorado for short stints of time, but graduated from a little town north of Lawton called Elgin.
and when you were traveling, that was when you were younger?
Yeah, I was like, I think at the oldest 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a very short time. I consider Lawton kind of my hometown. That's where even when I was going to school in Elgin, I'd go into Lawton to do all my running around and
Okay.
racing and cars and whatnot.
Okay. So, what was your first job? When did you start working?
Technically, my first employee job was at a grocery store in this even smaller town north of Elgin called Apache. Typical, I was stocking shelves right on the cash register, nothing more, nothing less. And then I think I went to Burger King after that. But before that, I was 13, 14. My parents helped me make these stencils, and it was just letters and numbers. And they were stencils, and you would slide them into this little apparatus, and you could line them up. And I went door to door as this teenager, essentially, on my bike and my book bag, and I would paint people's addresses on their curb, their driveway.
Okay.
And I did that for I think I was charging like $10, which, I mean, 20 years ago. Yeah, I'm 34, so 20 years ago.
That could add up real quick.
Huh?
That could add up real quick.
It did. Especially, I'm 13. I ain't got nothing to pay for but a Nintendo 64 game. And
Right.
I don't think Xbox was out that time. But yeah, it was just extra little money and a little side hustle for me. But my first actual W-2 job was a grocery store, essentially.
Okay.
Real small, local owned. I think it's still there, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
somehow.
How old were you when you enlisted? Was that like a right out of high school thing?
Yeah. Right out of high school, I worked for a moving company. They did a lot of military moves. Lawton has a base called Fort Sill. I believe
Predominantly Army?
it is. It is all Army. I think there's 4 Air Force there.
Okay.
And they're helicopter pilots. They train the Army guys. But so when we would go help and move these guys for TDYs, PCSs, I started talking to them, and every one of them I talked to, I was like, if you could do it over, what would you do? Everyone would say they go to the Air Force. Just better.
Typical Army response.
It is. But so that kind of got the ball rolling in my head, and I was still 18 at the time. And then I don't even know how. I went to the recruiter's office of the Air Force and just started talking to them and this and that, and talking to my parents.
Get some more information,
yeah.
kind of get a feel for it.
And then I think I did the ASVAB, and they said I was good for this job and this and that and all the normal stuff. And then I was like, I remember I was 19 years old and 1 week. It was a week after my 19th birthday when I went and actually shipped off. it was funny. I went from Lawton, which is south of Oklahoma City, shipped off to Oklahoma City. That's where they kept us all in this hotel. And then we flew down to San Antonio.
Yep.
And that was April 8th, 2008.
Okay.
So that's kind of the start of that journey and how it kind of worked for a moving company, got the curiosity going, and here we are 15 years later now.
15 years. Yep. Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, it's gone by fast though when I look back on it.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's just how time passes when you're older. I feel like the years get continuously shorter as, your life goes on.
Yes, I mean, even this year, it's already August.
Yeah, it's so weird.
We're closer to Halloween than we are Valentine's Day.
That's so weird. I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of nice because I feel like it's less of a drag on your day to day, but also it kind of gives you that almost panic feeling of like, I have so much I have to accomplish. These years are not as long as they used to be. Time is less forgiving.
Yeah. There's not enough hours in the day.
No, never. Especially when, you do what you do, being military and running a second business. I can only imagine what your days look like.
Yeah. It's
a lot.
It is. There's some days it's getting less frequent. There's some days I leave the house in the morning, 5:30, sun's still down, and I don't get home until the sun is down. I don't see my house in daylight sometimes, but those are getting far and few between. Yeah.
Yep. I remember that. So you obviously went to San Antonio for basic training. You went to Wichita Falls. What is that? Shepherd? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You were in Shepherd. And for those of you watching, I know all this because I did the same exact thing. I actually worked with this guy.
Yeah, we worked
in the same shop at the same duty station for a number of years. I mean, you got there not too long after I did.
I got
a year and a half.
September of 2013.
Oh, so like 6 months. I thought there was a way because I got there in March of 13.
Oh yeah. So you were just fully in process by the time I'd gotten there.
Just finished my CDCs.
Oh wow.
Hot off the 3 level. Let's go. So what was your first actual duty station?
Ellsworth Air Force Base in Rapid City, South Dakota, right by Mount Rushmore and the Sturgis Bike Rally.
That's got to be really cool, but I'm sure that's also got to have a lot of cons too.
It's looking back, it was such a beautiful country with the Badlands and the history that was there. There's a ton of history there, but when I was 19 as a single guy,
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Where the parties at? Where the fast cars at?
The nightlife wasn't great. It was there. The nice thing about being a car guy, the roads there are super windy, twisty, a lot of beautiful scenes.
A lot of mountainscape kind of hills, not flat.
Me and my buddies, I had a 4th gen Camaro. I thought it was hot shit at the time. And, that's what we would do. We just spend all our money on gas just driving.
I feel like that's any car enthusiast. If you're like sub 25, that's just what you just go put miles on whatever you think is fun.
Exactly. You just drive. And you don't have really where you're going.
Yep.
You're just like, let's go from here to here, see what happens.
Right.
And then hope you don't wreck or have burned up your tires.
Right.
I constantly did, yeah.
So you had a 4th gen Camaro. How long did you have that for?
Oh, man. I got that, I think, in 2009. I've actually been trying to track it down here recently to buy it back. And it was my first loan and vehicle purchase as me. Everything else, my parents helped me buy, or I had to give them the money to buy it. Just titling.
They fronted everything for you. You just gave them the money for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially. And I sold it, I think in 2013. Yeah, I sold it in 2013, right before I got here. Because in 2013, I got orders to tinker, and I was in Rapid City. So I had 2 Hayabusas, a Raptor 700, a lifted 03 Silverado, and this 4th gen Camaro.
God bless. That's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, my garage was full. So I sold both. No, actually, I sold the 4-wheeler because I was like, I'm not going to really, I just didn't foresee myself utilizing that in Oklahoma. And then I had this massive 4-wheel drive truck on 35s, and I was like, I don't really need this. It just doesn't snow like that in Oklahoma. And when it does,
We get ice.
Yeah.
You can't prepare for it.
the town shuts down. You don't need to go anywhere anyways for the most part.
It's not expected like it is in the north.
Yeah,
They don't care.
yeah, exactly.
10 feet, show up to work on time. Nobody cares.
Yeah. So then I had 2 Hayabusas and a 4th gen.
The 2 boosters you had concurrently.
Yeah, same time. I had, well, really, it was like 1.5. I wrecked the shit out of one of them.
So you had a parts bike and a bike.
Pretty much,
Okay.
yeah. I sold the parts bike. It still ran. It's just fairings were everywhere. The forks were leaking, but still fired up. Straight pipes. It was loud. I sold it to a guy. He turned it into a 800 horsepower drag bike.
800 horsepower on a Busa.
Yeah, with a stock motor too. I don't know how it's even. That's what he told me. He could have been blowing smoke at my ass. I don't know, but he stretched the swing arm and everything. So then I had 1 Hayabusa and 1 4th gen Camaro. And the time was getting closer and closer to me coming out here in September. And I just happened to go to this audio shop where my buddy worked, and his boss wanted to buy my car and made me an offer that I couldn't refuse.
Oh.
I think I broke even at the time. And back then, cars were still a huge depreciating asset. So I was like, I can sell it for what I bought it for. That's awesome.
Camaros are notorious for that as well. They're one of the worst ones.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And this kid, I've been in my 20s at the time, trying, he knew what the car had been through.
Just for reference, Mike is not nice to his cars.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about the 5th gen.
Yeah.
So you sold the Catfish.
Yeah. And then I had this big realization, dumbass moment. I left myself, my only vehicle, my daily, was a Hayabusa. It is a nightmare.
So you had already sold the truck and everything else. At this
Yeah,
point.
my garage had a lawnmower and a Hayabusa. That was, and it dawned on me when I got a ride home from my best friend up there. His name's Lewis. He had to come get me and take me home, and then I was like, oh shit. If you ever tried grocery shopping in a Hayabusa, it's miserable. It's so many trips. I actually modified the trunk in that to make it deeper.
They have trunks?
Yeah, under the passenger seat. I mean, you can
It's
fit
like a little cubby.
this cup in it, maybe. But the common thing to do was to take that out, to get a small office trash can, cut it in half, and stick it in there. So just deeper.
That's funny.
The caveat to that was that trunk now is closer to your wheels. So if you hit a bump,
I was going to say, like, what's the clearance situation with that?
you really just got to try to not just completely jump the bike and bottom the suspension out and bust your trunk.
Okay, interesting.
But shortly after that, getting even closer to, I think this was like late August. I just looked at my finances, what I was making, what was going out, and this was in 2013. And in 2010, Chevy just re-released the 5th gen Camaro, which I was a big fanboy over.
There was a gap between the 4th and 5th gen, correct?
Yes.
There was a few years of non-production.
From 02, they made the last 4th gen.
Okay.
And 03 to technically to middle of 2009. There was
The
a
10
gap.
model year.
Yeah, in middle of 09, they brought out the 2010 Camaro, which was debuted in Transformers. Fun fact, that was actually a GTO. But
Interesting.
It was bodied. Yeah, when they open the door, you can see it.
Oh.
Betts pointed that out to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he would.
Yeah, he
if anyone would, it would be him.
You would know. So I was like, I need one of these. But at the time, I'm this little, I'm probably making, God, what do senior airmen make?
Nothing. 3K,
Maybe
possibly, depending on
3,000 a
BAH.
month.
Yeah, because you had single BAH. You were out of the dorms at that point?
I was.
So you're like right at about the 3K take
Yeah.
home.
So buying a $32,000 car,
That's an endeavor.
it is. But I was young. I was dumb. I didn't know what really.
All your income is disposable at that point.
It really was. Like
You
aside
live in a
from-
tiny little, you
did
find yourself
duplex,
a
yeah.
nice shed.
Yeah.
That's the senior airman thing, is to live like you were virtually homeless and then just buy the most lavish, outlandish stuff
Yeah.
that you can allocate your disposable income to.
That's exactly.
I did the same thing. As an A1C, I think I paid 26 for my Genesis, the Genesis coupe that I had that I brought to your events.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I bought that brand new, no miles, 26 grand, as making like $2,600 a month. Yep.
It's funny because at the time we made it work, but like right now, like I wouldn't dare. I'm like, oh my God, I wouldn't give that advice to anybody.
Right?
Like, you're stupid. Don't do that. I did it. Like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But I really wanted one, and I just got on Auto Trader, and I sorted it. I knew exactly down to the trim and the year, actually a specific year. In 2010,
Exactly how you wanted to spec it.
yeah, in 2010, they didn't come with heads-up displays on the windshield.
Okay.
In 2011, they did, and I'm really petty about this. 2012, aside from being more expensive, had a different steering wheel that I didn't like.
So it had to be the 11.
It had to be. And then hindsight, I'm glad I didn't get a 13. I believe 13 is when they started electric power steering.
Which you get no feedback or anything.
Yeah, when you're
just
trying to drift, you get nothing.
yeah.
So for me, I chose the best platform, but I found one in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay.
Never heard of that place. I know I saw it's way southern Florida. And I made a phone call, called my banks, called the dealership, made a wire happen.
Okay. Just trying to connect all the dots to get that car in your name.
Exactly. And then it was listed for $9,000 under book value. I was like, why?
Back when GM, believe it or not, back in the day, for those of you younger people, GM used to give massive rebates and discounts for new vehicles.
Well,
Those are gone now.
it's quite the opposite now.
Yeah.
It was a used one.
Okay.
So it wasn't even a GM
wow.
dealership. Yeah. So I was like, why is this? It was just so weird. When I got there, I found out why. So I made the wire happen and this and that. And now I was like, oh, I got to get there now.
Yeah.
Like, I got to plan this out. Well, my best friend, Lewis, he was from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this whole thing backwards, right? So after I got the wire done, I went to work and then asked for leave, hoping I would get it. I did, but like, I probably should have secured that part first. Then I bought 2 plane tickets, and I didn't even tell Lewis.
Okay.
Again, a backwards way of doing this.
Just hope he gets leave too.
Hey, hopefully your leadership's cool. But I bought these 2 plane tickets because I was like, you're gonna help me get this car back. And it's funny because I didn't tell him what we were going to go get, that I had bought something and he needed to help me with it.
Okay.
And then we were gonna go to his home state. And then he let it, he got it out of me somehow. I let it slip.
Probably some of that.
Probably, yeah. Then so we get down there, and I see why it was $9,000 under book.
Oh.
It was the only car under $200,000 on the lot. It was a Bentley dealership.
They just want it gone.
Yeah, they're like, we don't need this peasantry on our lot. Like,
Come get your trailer park car.
yeah, come,
Shoo-shoo.
please. We've had it in the back inside for a while. They're just hiding it. Yeah, it was like, I'm just sitting here like looking at all these gorgeous cars, and then there's mine. They're like, this plasticky interior, $30,000.
Start somewhere. You might drift the Bentley one day. Who knows?
Yeah. There's somebody actually has on YouTube. It's pretty cool.
That's insane. That can't go well.
It went about as well as you could imagine. It's like drifting a Charger or a G8. So yeah, we picked it up and just started driving back. And I didn't tell anybody about this. Only Lewis knew in my leadership. They knew I had to take the leave. So actually, we stopped and surprised his mom. Just showed up at her house. Said, hey, we're here.
That's wild. How did she react?
Oh, typical mom, like so excited. Hasn't seen her baby in, a year from time he left to go to basic and all this and that. And then we did the same thing with my parents.
Okay.
And it was funny because
Did your parents know that you had orders to Oklahoma City?
They did, yeah,
Okay.
at the time. So
They didn't know when you were coming through.
they knew it was, I think I told them September. I don't think I actually told them the date.
Okay.
I surprised them again.
Oh, nice.
But so we were from Florida in the Camaro on the way back to Rapid City because I hadn't, my report no later than date wasn't to Tinker just yet. But we surprised his mom, then we surprised my parents. And it was funny because my little sister Kendra was, I think, around 16 at the time, 15 and a half. and she was getting her license. And a possible option for her was she was looking at a V6 version of the 5th gen Camaro
Okay.
because they were a hell of a lot more affordable. She doesn't need a 6.2 liter LS3 or
Fuel economy.
Yeah.
All that. Yeah.
So I got, just coincidence, I got home before mom and dad and Kendra were they were still at work. And I got home before all of them, like an hour. And I parked the car in the driveway. And I just go into the house. I know the code. And Kendra, I think, got home first. And then nobody knew I was coming. So she sees this Camaro in the driveway.
Oh,
She can't tell
no.
models if it's a V6 or V8.
Does she think it's for her?
She did.
Oh.
Oh, and then
That must have been great for you as an older brother and be like, haha, no, actually, that's mine.
yeah, f- you, I got one. But she, my parents show up, and my mom was super excited to see my dad's first question. He says, "Is it a manual?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "God damn it," because he knew what I was going to do with it at the time. He was right.
So when you bought that car, you had the intention of drifting it.
No, not at all.
No.
I didn't really know what drifting was because it was still a very new thing.
Oh, okay. Okay. We'll circle back to that.
Yeah. So see the family, cool, and we shoot back up to Rapid City. And then there was still a little bit of time left, and I was getting used to the car, and I wasn't necessarily modifying it because I went from a 4th gen LS1 of probably 265, 280 wheel horsepower
Yeah.
to this thing at 390 wheel.
Yeah.
And it was just huge. Like I was just so happy with it. It was smooth, and it was all the gadgets were cool at the time. I had Bluetooth. That was a new thing.
Yeah.
And then I went to a couple of autocross events.
Okay.
My supervisor at the time had a fairly new for 08, an 06 GTO. So
Okay.
those were still a big deal. And he invited me out to these autocross events. And Rapid City, it snows so much there. So in the 4th gen, I was so used to going out in the snow and playing and just fishtailing. And I grew up going to dirt track races. So I feel like I was one of those guys, just
Okay.
fishtailing the car, and it was a blast. So when I go to this autocross event in my 5th gen, and I don't really truly, at that time, I didn't understand the power that it had.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there just autocrossing, got my helmet on. I didn't really get fulfillment or fun from just going through these cones and getting a good time.
Yeah.
Because it dawned on me, it's like,
It's very strategic.
it is, but it's also it's hard to have a bragging right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, I can say I did a 1 minute 13 lap.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean much when it's a parking lot cone event because those cones, in theory, will never be set the same ever again.
Yes.
If you say that like you did at Laguna Seca,
Right.
Nürburgring, that's something tangible.
It's
Like,
fixed. There's a metric.
yes, you can measure it against others.
Right.
And I was like, this is stupid. Like, what? And like my boss did like a 1 and 10 second lap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if I'd get much more fun out of shaving 3 seconds off is a lot, but
For autocross, that is a pretty big
Yeah.
delta. Yeah.
I was like, if I did a 1:09, I don't know if I'd have any more fun than I am now. It was still fun, but
Right.
then I realized I did some YouTubing at the time and some research. There's this button, traction control button. Figured out how to disable it fully. You can't just tap it. You got to hold it for 5 seconds.
Well, yep.
And then that back end just stepped out like the 4th gen did. And I felt like I was on snow, but it was fun because there was this smoke flying. I didn't realize how much tires cost. And ultimately, long story short, I ended up getting kicked out of 2 of these events for that very reason. I was like, this is stupid. You guys suck. Then come to find out there were actual drift events. They were in this little town like Black Hawk. I think that's what it was at, South Dakota. It's about Norman to Edmond. It was
Okay.
just this town north. And hindsight, you know who Zach Ferris is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Drift Ride. He at the time had his red 350Z there,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember seeing it a couple of times. I'm pretty sure it was him.
savage. I missed the supercharged setup on it. I
Oh,
think
that
it
was
was
pretty dope. Yeah,
he-
that rhino horn coming out of it.
make
Too.
tires disappear in 3 seconds.
I remember that car when it was pretty well stock.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That must have been a
It
while
had
ago.
interior, the stock wheels.
Isn't it like caged and gutted now?
Oh, it's been caged and gutted a couple of times, repaired a lot. Like that car's been through some. He actually just moved to a really gorgeous blue drift vet.
Yeah, he got a
essentially.
C6, right? Yeah, I saw
Oh,
that.
it's gorgeous.
And he has a C8. Did he sell his Viper?
He sold the Viper a while ago. He's actually brought that out a couple times just to toss the accident around. They drift about as well as you can imagine.
Scary.
It's yeah, but yeah, he's got an awesome. I think it's a red C8.
Yep.
And it's gorgeous. I think he also bought an RX-7 question mark. He bought something
Okay.
pretty cool. But he's got this gorgeous blue Corvette, and that thing rips. Like he did a competition with us at Oklahoma Motorsports Park. And
Okay.
that thing will blind whoever's behind you. It just third gear rolls so much smoke.
That's amazing. And now, is he doing FD now? Or is he
No.
licensed? He just does it for fun?
I don't think he has a license. He went down that path of chasing that dream and just realized it wasn't for him.
Okay.
He gets more enjoyment out of being home now with his pretty sure still fiance, maybe wife, Megan, and just drifting with the homies and
Yeah.
just having fun and
I
not
think that's
having
you.
popular. I don't know who that is. He just decided that the time and money and stress that goes into running a racing program just wasn't for him. Rather put he's well diverse in investing. He's very humble about it too. But he just loves coming to the local events and then waking up in the same bed, going to an event, and going to sleep in the same bed, and just not a care in the world.
I get that. When you chase FD, it's kind of a career that pulls you along. You don't really have control over your day to day. You just have like these requirements you have to meet. You have to go to these events, and it's very much like trying to keep up with something that's very dynamic. It's not like you get to stay home and then plan out your day and what you want to do. It's like it kind of drags you along.
Yeah,
and that's a lot to do.
It's a commitment, and not only is it a commitment to FD. As far as these travel days, a lot of people only think FD is these little. It's what you see on TV, and that's maybe one day of qualifying, and then one day of pro spec and one day of pro one. But what you don't realize, Formula Drift gets to that venue probably 6 to 7 days before. So
there's a lot of testing, maintenance.
The drivers have to get there for like potential tech inspections.
Yep.
Autograph signings, fan experiences, like they're there days before.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's a big commitment, and you got to do this all over the country, from
Driving is just a part
Long
of it,
Beach to New Jersey, everything in between.
Yeah, the tour is nationwide and it doesn't
Oh, yeah.
stop. Well, I mean, there is a season, right?
There is.
What are the season months?
I believe it's typically
Spring to fall.
March, April to I think. Oh, when is their last event? September or October. So it's a spring to fall thing.
Okay.
But it's I've actually gotten, because of a guy Robert Thorne and Daniel Stuckey and Casey Cole, I've actually gotten to see some of their behind the scenes stuff that goes on. We help Garrett and I help them in St. Louis. That's so close. We can help transport stuff, work on the car with them if they need it within reason, and just be a helping hand. But it's really cool to see how much really goes on, and then how much people actually only see, which is the YouTube footage. And you don't,
sure.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a whole commitment. It's daunting. I don't know if I could even if money was no object, I don't know if I would want to have that kind of.
That is something that is just like exhausting to the core of your being. Like, I don't know how people have the energy to keep up with it.
It takes a special person. That's for sure.
I admire those people who just, they're able to maintain their passion through all the work that they have to invest into it. Like, they're still excited to go. It's like, dude, that lifestyle just absolutely beats the hell out of you. And you still wake up and you're like, yeah, I get to drive today. Like, man, after lugging all my equipment in here just to shoot this, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I have to do this. Fuck.
Yeah. Let's get this going. You want some?
For sure.
Oh, well, that turned into water real quick.
Well,
Yeah, you win some, you lose.
hey, I'm not mad if you got to cut mine a little bit, you know. I'm not trying to Uber with 300 pounds worth of camera gear. Oh, so
Some locations ain't even opened yet.
you make it to Tinker. You have your 5th gen. That's your daily now, right? You ended up selling the Busa at some point.
Yeah. I U-Haul my essentially my entire belongings and my trailing behind the 5th gen, and get to Oklahoma, and I got surprised my family again because I didn't tell them when I was coming in. My wife's gonna kill me. She saw the way I opened this bottle.
Is that a no-no?
She's used to be a bartender.
Oh,
There's certain ways to open bottles, and
whatever.
I just
If it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid.
So yeah, I show up and didn't tell anybody that I was showing up. I just surprised my family, and it was funny because they were at the lake in the camper, and it was like 2 a.m. I was like, "Hey, I'm here," and like, "What time is it? What's going on?"
Oh my God. You got there at 2 a.m.?
Yeah, I just deadheaded the whole thing, and it was U-Haul. Got a speeding ticket in the U-Haul too. That was neat.
Weird flex, but yeah, I'm here for it.
So I get here, and I think I got here like 7 days before my report no later than date.
Okay.
Pew was my sponsor.
Oh, good old
Chris
Chris.
Pew.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
So there's going to be a lot of civilians. I don't get to say that anymore. There's going to be a lot non-military people watching this. So report no later than date is the date that you have to be at your duty station. You have to be ready for work. That's your like show up with your uniform, get to work type deal. So you still had like a week off.
Yeah. I was just kind of bullshitting with my parents at the lake, but we had to go get, this U-Haul is charged by the day.
Yeah.
So I had to unload all this stuff into the storage unit, and be like, okay, cool, we got that in there. We'll deal with that later whenever I find a place. I didn't know the area, so I didn't like preemptively like search for places to live.
Oh my gosh. You just showed up and you're like, I guess I need a roof or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I stayed at my parents' house, I believe, and then in Lawton, and commuted to Tinker.
What? For how long?
It was like 3 days.
Okay.
And then
So you're leaving at like 3 a.m. to get to work on time?
it was like 4:30 was the latest I could leave to be in the parking lot. And the walk into work. Well, walking to work wasn't bad at that time, actually. That's when we had that little gate.
So your duty station was Tinker, which is in Oklahoma City. Lawton's like an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Yeah, it was about an hour and 35 minutes, I remember, from driveway to parking spots. Like me opening the door and closing the door. I remember now I did that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then I started house hunting.
Yeah,
My
no
house
kidding.
hunting days. The Air Force gives you 7 to 10 days. I forget what it is now. It's been so long. When you get to your duty station, they give you time off to look to buy a house, rent a house, get all your affairs in order. And then you come back to work and you kind of just business as usual. So did that for 3 days. Wasn't a big deal. And then I was very fortunate to find out there were in the shop at the time in 2013, there were so many car guys, which I didn't have that in South
Oh,
Dakota.
that was like the whole shop.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there was just tons of them.
But we had this weird domestic import divide.
Yeah,
It was weird.
it was. And I remember, and it was funny because the one guy I wanted to beat so bad, and I did, was Justin Altacho in his little 4.6 Mustang.
Oh yeah,
That little black one that he
Yeah.
hydroplaned on lunch.
that's right. Was that supercharged or something? Procharged?
No, I remember now. Remember he got those he spent like a ton of money on cams and it gave him like 15 horsepower.
Oh, there was something really wrong. He had like a fuel issue or something.
It might have been. I don't remember. It's been so long.
Yeah, I remember that. He was pissed.
I remember I always used to give him shit because he had the slowest Mustang. Because the only other Mustang was Titlow, Eric,
Dumas
and Duaneus.
Duaneus.
And they both had 5.0s.
Right, yeah.
Which is going to just mop the floor with a
4.6
4.6.
can't hang at all.
But that was, so I was really happy that like there's so many car guys. I think you've gone through too many vehicles.
I've always had something. I think when I was there, oh man, I'm trying to think. Okay, 2013. I know through the period of time that I was stationed in Tinker, I've had SRT4s. I had 2 Evos. I had a Civic for a while.
Oh, I remember this.
That black 8th gen. That was a bad situation.
But you know, you live and learn.
Yeah.
But so I was super stoked. So I go on these house hunting days, and I'm like, I don't know where to live, this and that. I'm so used to duplexes. Never really, I was still young enough to where I was like, I don't want to buy a house. That's stupid. So I found, I think just on Craigslist at the time.
Oh, Craigslist.
Yeah, it was still a thing. These apartments. And it was one John C. used to live in.
Oh, those nice ones up over on, what was it, like 10th and Third Depot?
No, that's his second set. The
With him
one
and
that I,
Schultz.
I'm not sure where Schultz lived.
Schultz was his roommate for a while.
Oh, poor John. So
Aaron, if you're watching this, sorry to put you on blast like that.
he's a good guy. He was another guy I was grateful to have in the car community because he was just a ball of energy. It was fun.
He started off as a stance guy.
Did he?
You don't ever remember his 350?
I don't know if I was there for that.
Dude, he had so much camera. His wheels were like that.
The one I remember most of his was that awesome Mercedes he had.
Yeah, he had a C63 for a little bit, but that was after the 350 days. Yeah, he had this absolutely dumped on the floor 350 with like 20 by 12s in the back.
Oh my God.
With like negative 15 cam.
I remember
nuts.
that.
It was hilarious. He scraped on everything.
No, these apartments that I got was off of I-40 in MacArthur.
Okay.
And they were kind of new. I don't want to say it was in a rougher part.
Okay, 40 is not too bad. 240 is...
Oh, 240, yes.
Yeah, 40
It was just north of the Will Rogers Airport.
Okay, that's not terrible.
And then, I kind of just slowly immersed myself with, Tanike, Pugh, Schultz, Dwayne, all the car guys.
Mm-hmm.
They took me, one of the first places they took me to events was this place called the Sheriff's Track.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was an autocross deal.
Yep. And I think, I don't think they do it anymore.
That got shut down a long time ago.
Unfortunate, but
yeah,
liabilities, I get it. And then, I just kind of just went to work and hung out with car guys. We go on cruises every once in a while just to BFE and just random places. It was kind of like I was in South Dakota, but with guys who had some nicer cars.
Yeah.
South Dakota, a lot of STIs, Evos, because so much snow, you want an all-wheel drive car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of that import kind of year-round type deal. Yeah.
So it was nice to be home for one, I had my family.
Back to your Oklahoma roots with a V8 rear-wheel drive, brother.
Yep, damn right. Oh.
You're right. That didn't sound good.
Wait till you turn 34.
Oh, no, I'm good. Good on that. You know me. I mean, I got medically retired.
Yeah, you got issues. I just had hip surgery. Today's what, the 4th?
Yeah, 4th.
Yeah, I had a hip surgery on the 18th. I'm still kind of...
Grandpa Mansfield over here.
I wish I had a cane. I'm going to go get one after this. It's pretty nice.
Oh, man. So, what year did you start full lock? And, like, what made you... So, you're doing autocross events in your 5th gen Camaro. You look at the typical drift community. You have your S13 guys. You have, 350Zs or popular platform. You have all these guys. And then there's you, who does not watch anime, who drives a 5th gen Camaro, probably listens to Skinner on your way to work.
Kid Rock, same stuff.
Kid Rock, yeah. You're making my point for me. How did you get into drifting? Like, I feel like your culture and who you are is just not what you find with the typical drift community. You're a very different individual, and to see you run this organization is just this weird polarization. It's hard to do the math on this. So tell me about that.
So it really started at drag racing.
Okay.
As you can probably imagine.
Yep.
And it was so boring. The funnest part about drag racing for me was spending just a little too much time in the burnout box. That was just so fun. Like, this is a legal burnout. I don't got to do this in a Walmart parking lot.
Nobody's mad at me.
Leave.
This is
Nobody's
cool.
mad. This is what? Y'all sure? I can keep going.
Why are they clapping? I'm usually getting a ticket for this.
Right. But drag racing just wasn't for me. It was just, again, chasing those very, very minuscule numbers. And for some people, that's fun.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for me.
You're like comparing hundredths of a second.
Yeah. I didn't care about going from 12.5 to a 12.2 to a 12. And it's funny because drag racers, really, you can almost say this about any sport. Drag racing is a good example. These guys spend so much money in their cars, some hundreds of thousands,
Oh, easily.
to be in them for less time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Minuscule at best, but
right.
it's like, I want to go faster so I can get out of the car sooner. Because the sooner I get out of the car, that means the faster I was on the track. It's kind of a weird concept.
It is
to
funny.
say it out loud.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than that. But, and truth be told, I probably wasn't great at drag racing. Like, I did. You
It's hard to
gotta.
do in a manual.
It is.
Those
You
edge
gotta-
pattern guys, I don't know how they throw down like that.
You got to learn how to launch it correctly. What's the ambient temperature? What's the track surface? What's your horsepower, your clutch,
Yeah.
your stall, if you're auto? There's a whole bunch that goes into it.
Yeah.
It's-
Trying to not burn your clutch and preload the motor and getting just the symphony of the correct motor skills to launch a
Yeah.
manual car is just, it's hard.
It is, and it changes day to day. with
Yeah,
track
it's so
surface,
inconsistent.
pressure,
It's frustrating.
and that's assuming you don't break anything.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
you broke something, you upgraded. Now maybe you have to do an alignment because of these upgrades on this 4-link rear end. It's just it's a whole thing.
Snowball.
And I can see the snowball and the fun effect of that. It just wasn't for me.
Right.
But the smoke was. So I was introduced to friction motorsports.
That sounds familiar. That was like early days grassroots. They kind of in
It
the
was.
South Midwest, they were running stuff sort of.
They were running the Oklahoma scene. A guy named Gary. He did a phenomenal job doing what he did.
There were like 4 guys kind of involved in it, right?
It was it was him. He had some helpers.
Okay.
He was the main equity owner. Everything fell onto him. But I do believe he sold it to some people afterwards, and then that's who I bought it from. But he did an awesome job at doing events at this place in Stroud, Oklahoma.
The Stroud days.
Stroud days. Stroud is a little town. Little town. I don't even think it's 10,000 people. And you've got Oklahoma City, and then you've got Tulsa. Stroud is almost to the mile, almost the perfect halfway point. Little bitty town. The highway splits it in half. And on the northern half, there was this shopping center. And there was like an Ulta, a PetSmart, a Bed Bath Beyond. They were all like connected together. It was typical shopping centers. And then you could park in one spot in the parking lot and hit them all. In 2010, I believe, a tornado took them all out.
Oh,
And it was such a total loss that the city just kind of leveled it all. And Gary found out who owned the property. It was a Sac and Fox tribe nation, and struck a deal with them. And essentially, he did drift events with a bunch of cones, and it was in the parking lot. Because where the buildings were, it was raised up, the foundation. That's
Right.
where the pits were. And so the big parking lot was where all the drifting would happen.
so you and I, we've always obviously been there and done this. For other people who are listening, watching, what would you say the size of the parking lot was? Like a square mile, maybe?
I know how big it is. I've measured it many times.
Oh yeah.
It was the shape of a rectangle-ish. I mean, parking lots aren't like completely squared, but
Right.
I believe it's in the ballpark of 700 feet by 360 feet.
It's massive.
It is. It's big. I mean,
So much room for activities.
yeah, there was. And
It was like world's greatest skid pad. Like,
it wasn't the greatest for tire wear,
no,
but it wasn't
ate
built
tires.
for that either.
Yeah. It wasn't like a nicely refinished parking lot.
No.
It was pretty raggedy.
Yeah. And obviously when nobody's using it for day-to-day commerce. They don't keep up with it.
No, I mean, yeah.
You got these guys going out there just spinning their tires on it. They're not going to invest money into keeping it good.
No.
As of today, I actually drove by there not too long ago. Just driving by, I didn't go on it, but it is really deteriorated. Tons of grass. You would have to, it sounds weird. You would have, if I want to do an event there, I would have to go mow the parking lot. There's so much just,
That's
crap.
crazy. I know that place was in bad shape because one of the last events you ran there, you had your guest from Japan, the pro.
He's a D1 driver.
D1, yes.
I forget his name.
He's
guy
from Japan. I know Ben was there translating.
Yeah,
and
Ben Kraft.
he took somebody's S15 or maybe 14 with a 50 front end.
Yeah, he did.
What was his name? The guy who owned the car? He has a red Supra too.
Oh,
John?
something like that. Yeah, I forget his name.
Super cool guy. He always
Yeah.
bought content from me and he drove the coolest cars. And so he brought, I think, his Sylvia and his Supra for that event, driving the Supra most of the day. Let your guest drive his S14. He found the only pothole
It was so bad.
in the entire event, and it did so much damage to that guy's car.
And it was weird because
Intercooler,
yeah,
like
ram
suspension,
tire,
yeah, just
lower control. It was a
it was a four-figure
weird
bill.
because we build these tracks around the potholes.
Yeah,
So
I think he got outside of the
he
cone.
did. He
was
went out the
confused.
cone. I don't know what happened, and just found the one
The bad one.
detrimental pothole.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
And that guy was pissed because I guess your guest didn't like offer to pay for anything. He's like, "Well, here's your car."
I think
Sorry.
ultimately he ended up, I don't really know the whole story, but I think there was a language barrier.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's why he maybe didn't offer it first. But I think they got behind the scenes and sorted it out. And
Okay.
they walked away both happy. I'm pretty sure they did.
I just remember it's like,
Yeah, it was,
That was such a
gorgeous.
big deal.
15 too.
yeah.
Man, it was right hand drive and everything.
Yeah, he had the coolest car. I have a photo of him tandem with somebody else, and because he's right hand drive, you see his arm out the window and he's flipping the other guy off.
Oh, I know that photo. Yeah.
And I got so lucky that I managed to get everything in focus. You can clearly see him like flipping him off because he's right hand drive. He's on the inside, so he's here.
Yep.
The other car's here. So he's right hand drive and he's flipping off the driver who's right next to him. And it's the funniest. You can see it all perfectly clear.
Yeah.
Funny.
That's a fun gesture we do in the drift community just to kind of antagonize the guy.
Get
Like,
close with them all.
come on, get closer. You ain't. Come on. Hit this door right here. But yeah, so I started going to those events.
Mhm.
And man, they were fun. They were a blast. I remember
You
having.
took your daily driver 5th gen to these events.
Yeah, it was my only car. And I remember having to ask Mike Durham at the time, the little staff sergeant.
Yup.
He had a red lifted, I think it was lifted Tundra or something like that.
Yeah.
And we had to borrow his truck. And like 3 of us would put our tires in the bed of his truck 'cause none of us had trucks. And one of us would drive that. We'd all drive up there. He was super helpful in letting us borrow that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Durham's a great guy. I mean, I've worked closely with him for a good chunk of my Air Force career. Like we've always ended up on
Yeah.
the same team and doing inspections, whatever.
And we go up to these Stroud events, and I had a ton of fun. And I had a bone stock Camaro. I might have had exhaust, like not even headers, just
I remember
40
when you
series.
straight piped it
Oh man, that was never again.
for your 5-wheel horsepower.
Yeah, I gained 5 horsepower. Maybe I probably lost like 10. I found myself getting bored. Now, granted, I was stock suspension, stock angle. Literally, the only modification was a muffler. Like the exhaust manifolds were even stock. But I was getting bored because there was no true, I guess you could say, danger. Like in a parking lot event, you can go 100 mile an hour and put the car sideways. The worst thing you're going to hit is a cone. Some people's case, if you're in an S15, you're going to hit a pothole. But at the time, there wasn't. That was kind of my mentality. Like, this is fun. I'm throwing a lot of smoke. I'm spinning out. I'm having fun. I'm just going through tires. I would get tires for like $5 to $10 at these little mom and pop tire shops.
Yeah, like used secondhand ones that still have some life left.
Yeah, like you would maybe go from LA to New York on these tires, but if you needed them to last 4 or 5 laps at a drift event, I mean, hey, they were great.
Can't beat the price.
Yeah. So then I got just a little kind of bored with it wasn't because I was too good. Like I was spinning out almost every lap, but
It wasn't challenging.
I'm like, there's nothing to.
It set the cones really wide. It was kind of beginner friendly.
It was. And then there's a place for that. And now, as of 2023, we acquired a new venue that substitutes Stroud.
Okay. Are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, we already had an event there. It was Remington Park.
What?
Yeah, we did an event at Remington.
How did I miss that?
Oh,
I suck, I guess. I don't know what to say.
yeah,
I'll take the L for that.
guy.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's me.
Yeah. Why are your paid ads not showing up on my timeline?
I spent a lot of money on those too.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that on you then. That's not my L. That's yours. Your marketing sucks. Do better.
Deep bad.
So Remington Park, that is crazy. How does that work? Where are you drifting at Remington Park?
So if you look at them from a satellite image, right, you got Remington Park. Then there's these tiered parking lots.
Isn't that where Cars and Coffee is now?
It is actually, yeah. They just, I think his name's Sam.
Sam Barnett.
Sam Barnett, yeah,
I just got his GT3 RS.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think they do them in the same lot that we do events in.
Wow.
And
So you do events in those parking lots?
yeah, we've replaced Stroud. And even more so because when we did events at Stroud, we had to use that whole lot. Some of it was for pits. Some of it was for the actual driving.
Okay.
Because there are tiers to these parking lots, and they're massive. We can pit at this level and drift at this level.
Right.
So this every square inch of that parking lot is used for drifting.
That's cool. How did you get the green light on that? I never would have thought an establishment like that would go for that.
So kind of what I've always done, I spent hours and hours and hours on Google Earth scouring the state for some piece of real estate that looks like it would be tangible for drifting. It's got to be safe, make business sense, not be in the middle of nowhere, and have good spectator seating, good pits as well. You know, a lot of stuff goes into sorting out a venue. Obviously, Remington Park had the real estate. It was a matter of convincing them. I believe years and years and years ago, somebody tried to do a drift event there, but it didn't quite go through. So I knew that they were potentially open to the talks, at least to have a conversation about it.
Right.
I was
Doors
dead
half
set.
open.
Yeah, I was like, they're still gonna tell us no because they're a casino. They don't need
Yeah, they're good.
the money that we give them.
Their bills are paid.
The money we give them, they probably make in a half hour
Right.
in there just with their casinos. But I called them, got a hold of this nice lady, explained to her who I was, what I did, and a little bit of the history and background. And essentially that led into a full-on meeting. So me, Daniel Stuckey, and Robert Thorin went there, had a meeting with her about what we plan to do, what drifting looks like.
So pause. When you were doing this, these are your current partners. You said 2023, correct?
Yeah, we're kind of jumping around some timelines here.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay.
Let's come back to that.
Okay. We'll revisit 2023. So you were bored with drifting at the time. This is 20.
Probably 14, 15
Okay.
ish time frame. I went to these Stroud events at Friction. They were awesome events.
Yep.
Your very typical grassroots. There was a lot of awesome locals: Zach Dyson, Zach Ferris,
Benton Craft is a big.
the whole Craft. Yeah, he
Big-
came from the SCCA world, and he's really dominated drifting. Robin Dennington.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot. She was into that.
She was badass.
Didn't
in
she
her
have
day.
a S13 or something?
Something of the sorts? I can't quite quote you the car. I believe she won won their competition series for the year. Don't
Oh, wow.
quote me on that. I think that's true.
Yeah.
She's a badass drifter and knows her shit.
Yeah.
And now she's
killing it in real estate right now.
yeah, oh my god, her real estate. She's just phenomenal at it.
Her and Andy both.
Yeah.
Power couple for sure.
They're doing some awesome things for themselves and their family. They got a cute little boy.
Yeah.
He's yeah, they're doing some really great things. I think they recently moved, but side note.
Anyways, we're terrible at staying on topic. My God.
But yeah, I got just kind of bored, and it's kind of neat because I not very few people know this story. Full Lock Drift was founded in a cigar lounge. Go figure.
At Burn.
Burn wasn't even a thing.
Oh, okay.
This place called Whiskey Lounge,
Okay.
which has been rebranded to Stag Lounge.
Stag. Okay.
Stag, it's in the Deep Deuce area.
It sounds familiar.
It's on the corner. You can see the Aloft Hotel if you peek around the corner. It's not big. It's a nice quiet bar. But Jake Tonight and I just started talking about this and that and how it'd be awesome to drift at a track. And at the time in Grassroots, not a lot of people were doing tracks. It was a lot of skid pads.
Yeah.
But rewinding to that apartment that I moved to when I first got here, I remember, I think it was Justin Lang and Justin Altacho messaged me one night. It was like 8 o'clock at night, I think. And Lang, I think, had a 4th gen Camaro at the time.
Uh-huh.
And Altacho had his 4.6 liter Mustang with cams that didn't do shit. And he's going to be so mad when he sees us. I think they were like, hey, let's go out and do some donuts or something stupid. Let's just go hoon around, right? And I was like, well, we got to find a place. So I'm in this apartment. And I open up Apple Maps, satellite view, looking for pads that are like back roads. I didn't want to do anybody's personal property or on the streets. I was trying to find this lonely ass back road that was like more or less deserted just to do a burnout on. And much to my surprise, I open up Google or Apple Maps satellite and it focuses on where you're at. I zoom out and sharing a fence line with this property was a racetrack.
What?
Yeah. It was Mac Park.
Oh, so that's how you got to know David.
This is the, I guess, origin story of, how Full Lock Drift came to be. So I saw this track and I'm like, holy crap. I share the same soil as this racetrack. Like, it's that close.
That's crazy.
It was probably the distance from one Walmart to the other.
Yeah.
Or like end to end from Walmart. It was that close to us. It was wild. So 8 o'clock or like 8:30 at night, I like quickly get in my car and drive over there like it's going to be open.
And just to preface this is a go-kart track.
This was, yeah.
Okay.
Come to find out. So I drive over there and it's all fenced up. It's locked up for the night. It was a place of business where they built drive shafts day to day.
Shout out to David Hobbs at Precision Drive.
Yeah.
If you need a drive shaft, hit up David at Precision.
Mm-hmm.
I will be invoicing you for this ad slot.
Always have a wristband. So the next day I go over there and the gates open. I kind of stroll in and, I park here and I walk in and I met with Dave, who I didn't know at the time. And I started asking about this property and, he tells me the history of it in a nutshell. It was an amusement park from 78 to 83.
What?
Yeah. And it went, I guess, it went out of business in 83. Dave's dad bought the property and where the main shop is now. Now they do drive shafts out of there. I think his dad since passed and Dave still runs the business day to day. But the whole property, the pond there, that was bumper boats.
Oh,
The main place, I believe, where Dave does his place of work now was the arcade, whatever arcade games were back in then.
What?
Well, Pac-Man machines, I don't know.
Right.
Something.
Centipede.
And then obviously you get the go-kart tracks.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows Mac Park, on the easternmost end of the property, where there's some big trees, but there's these two rickety old shacks. I don't know how they're still standing. One was like, I believe, I could be wrong, Dave would know. One was a garage and a mechanic shop for the go-karts, and one was a bathroom. It's something like that.
Huh.
There's two white sheds. You see them when you go there.
Yep.
But that's kind of, and then he says there was a water slide somewhere. I never really actually got like an actual, like a good image of where that water slide was at, but he's got a lot of he's got a binder of how it used to be way, way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
He used to go there as a kid and play there and do the go-karts and this and that.
And now he owns a business on that property.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yep. And now he actually technically holds the record for the highest horsepower car on that track.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. His blue GTR, his T1 built.
Yep.
Was it like 1,200 horsepower?
It was 1340. It was something ridiculous. Yeah.
His T1 cars are absolutely nuts.
It was. He's only taken on track once that I know of.
Yeah.
He just ripped it.
You do like an 840 or something like that.
Yeah, I got a funny story we'll tell later about him at the drag strip.
Okay.
I'm never gonna let him live it down.
Oh man.
But yeah, so that's the story of Mac Park. So I went there, talked to him. We made kind of I asked him, what would you want for us to do events here? And I didn't think I said events. I said me and a couple of buddies, because we had so many car guys in the shop. And then we talked some business and some numbers, and I tried to act like I was this prim, proper business guy, because I had
Just a hood rat Air Force guy with a big
in South Dakota, for not many people know this, I had a very small, like maybe an 8-month time period where I was involved with an MLM, a multi-level marketing bullshit.
You're
Organo
a Karen.
Gold. Yeah, I was a Karen. Yeah, I was that. But that kind of sparked a business endeavor within me that fizzled out real quick.
You got to know how to sell if you do an
I
MMA.
am not a salesman. I cannot.
Well, clearly you are.
Hey,
'Cause you locked down Mac Park. You locked down Remington Park.
That was more negotiating a contract, if you will.
You got to be a salesman to do that. You got to sell them on it.
Well, I mean, it was more of, he said he wanted this, and I agreed to it. Like, it was,
Oh, well.
I want this. Okay. So it was a little more than that. He wasn't quite sure if that place could withstand cars.
Right.
At the time, there was this guy named Red who leased it from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the term is called motards or something like that. There are these these dirt bikes. I could be speaking out of wrong here. They're dirt bikes without seats. Think of a mountain bike with a motor.
That sounds awful.
It's awesome, actually. And these guys, they would race on the track. And then not many people know this about Mac Park. There's a motocross track in that tall grass, like a berm. There's doubles. There's all kinds of jumps. It's just covered by this grass.
That's so crazy.
I take my foiler out there once in a while and just, yeah. They would race out there, and they had like a 2-mile course.
Mm-hmm.
And for context, that asphalt track entirely is a 1/2 mile. So they would they had it all mapped out. It was crazy. You could get on the asphalt course, started there, and it went so far, and they went off road into the infield, and then back on the asphalt, and back on. It was all kinds of craziness. That's how they routed it. So at that time, he was the only one using it, and he wasn't sure if a car could do it. So I think we set up a day to test, and I think we took my car and maybe Zach Ferris. I don't remember, and ultimately, we kind of agreed, let's see how one event goes.
Okay.
And I believe that was late March or early April. I have to look back, of 2016. And that is essentially the start of Full Lock Drift in broad nutshell.
So from that point, you were like, hey, there's something actually tangible here. There's something to be had that can grow. I need to insure this, get an LLC, and really grow this.
Right, exactly. So after we had that test day with Dave and we decided like, yes, this is tangible. We only questioned if it could be done with tandems, where two cars go side by side.
That course is so tight and technical.
It is.
It's sketchy for cars.
Yeah, you can do tandems on it, but you better be comfortable with who you're tandeming,
You have to be real good.
and you gotta have some skills.
There's no margin for error. It's exactly what you were looking for to get away from the skid pad stuff because
Yeah.
it's the polar opposite of a skid pad.
It is. It was one extreme to the other.
I've seen a couple people total their cars on that track.
Yeah. I've seen Jake Tonick's oil pan get ripped out.
On his 5th gen?
No, he had that little shitty E36 or 46 he had, the gray one.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it was.
But a little
But
drift deal.
so we decided it was good, and I went to the cigar lounge at Stag with Jake, and we had this business idea of how we were going to do all this stuff and get it together. And we brought in, and we decided, like an idiot, to bring in a third member. I don't quite remember who it was at the time. And we were going to just, like, we were assigning roles. Like, I was going to do the books. You were going to do the track stuff. You're going to do promotions, all this stuff. We had these roles assigned.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Jake bowed out, and so did the other guy. And then I remember shortly after that, Jake got out of the military and he went back home, I believe. I'm not sure where he's at now. I keep track of him on social media every once in a while.
He's in the East, isn't he?
Somewhere, yeah. He just recently married, got a beautiful wife, and they're
nice.
just living life.
Okay. So this is all taking place roughly after your first actual event and brainstorming Stag, like 2015, 2014, maybe?
It would have been late 15.
Okay.
Like November-ish time frame. So ultimately, I held the first event at Mac Park. It was April or March of 16. And all I had between that time, I had bought a little beater 96 Honda Civic. And that was just my little aid from that apartment to Tinker car. And I did the whole event with that car. Like, it had horrible paint. I didn't care about the car. I used to have tire barriers on the corners. So I'd stack these tires that were just sitting in on the property of Mac Park. I stack them on top of the car. I got a funny picture of it.
Oh my gosh.
And I drive the corner and place them strategically. Ultimately, I learned through a friend in Tulsa to not put tires out, because when people go off, a tire can damage a car, especially these ones, because they've been sitting there since '83.
They're all hard and dry.
They were hard, rotted, just they were concrete damn near. But yeah, we essentially did the first event there and kind of just made them monthly. And then I think November or October, Jake was having his going away.
Okay.
He wanted it somewhere fun. For the civilians, when somebody in the military gets orders or is leaving the installation that they're at, it's customary to have a luncheon, a going away of sorts, whatever it may be.
Your shop or whatever you do kind of shuts down for the day and you kind of focus on sending somebody off.
Yeah, give them a nice plaque, thank them for their time here. And Jake wanted to do something a little different. He wanted...
Is that when we went to Turner Falls?
No, who was that for? I don't remember.
Anyways.
He wanted to go to a go-kart track.
Okay.
So I called this guy at Oklahoma Motorsports Complex.
The story of the good old OMC track.
Rodney
My
Berry.
favorite. My
Yep.
favorite drag.
And I said, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. He's super pro military. He's an awesome guy. I think he gave us a little bit of discount. But we essentially rented the track for like 10 or 15 of us, and he gave us an awesome price. And we kind of, instead of, normally when you go there, you buy like, I want to race here for 15 minutes and you do a 15-minute race. Cool. We rented it out for like a 2 or 3 hour time span, and it was I don't even remember how much it was. He gave us a hell of a discount though, but he we got there, we did our race, it was fun, and everybody left. And I was just sitting there. I was like, hey, my name's Mike. I'm going to call you on the phone.
A little business hustle after the event.
Kinda, yeah. It was really spur of the moment. And I said, have you ever thought about doing drift events here? I was like, I host drift events over here at this place called Mac Park, which he knew about. He's about the age where I think he might have even gone there as a kid. And he said, he's like, yeah, we've tried this in the past. He said, we had a car come out here, was going to do some testing. And one car was on the start line, ready to go. And he went to go, and they said, this clutch, just boom, gone right there.
Oh.
And then he said he never heard back from anybody. This was years ago, before I was even stationed here.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, I never heard from those guys. I didn't know who they were. I still to this day don't know who they were. But he mentioned he knew the owners, not the owners, the people who ran this track up in Schwana, Wisconsin, at this track US Air. Their names are Pat and Ann. He was very good friends with them.
Do they do FD up there?
No.
Okay.
Pat and Ann run the track US Air. They used to. They've since taken a step back. I think they're going towards the retirement life. But they that's the track that does at its peak. It was doing Final Bout.
Okay.
Garrett and I actually got to go there and actually be just patrons one day, drive his Corvette up there.
That's cool.
It was a lot of that. Track's a blast. So Rodney had ties with people who were doing drift events on go-kart tracks. And he was interested in it because he knew that there was money in it. And when you're running a business, kind of survives on money.
Yep.
So we kind of arranged to have some cars come out and test. And I think I brought out Zach Ferris to simulate. I wanted to simulate like at the time, pro level built car. I believe, I could be wrong, Zach Dyson, who had a mid-range car. He wasn't stock, but he wasn't a supercharged LS pushing.
Did he have an S14?
Oh, he had this red car. It was a 13, I believe. He sold it to Bronson, I believe. I don't know what it was.
Some kind of turbo 4-cylinder, like 300 horsepower deal.
Yeah, Dyson for the longest time. It's funny. He was so so anti V8 until we got one.
Right. Everyone is.
And
Myself
I
included.
get it. It's purist. But there is niceties to be had with a naturally aspirated V8. There's also cons, but anyways, so, and then it was Ferris, Dyson, and then myself. I was the one simulating the stock car because I had stock angle, stock suspension, everything. And we went out there and just kind of tested it. Rodney liked what he saw. Jeremy Davis shot us a cool little video.
Yeah.
I still have it somewhere. A little commercial, if you will.
Cool.
And I think we had our last event in 2016. Our last event of the year was the inaugural event of OMC. And so within kind of 1 year, we were able to grab Mac Park and then Oklahoma Motorsports Complex, which is OMC. And then, cool, our season was done. I didn't really understand that I had a business on my hands at the time.
Yeah.
I was kind of just like, hey, come drift here, get you a wristband, a tech inspection, and you can drift on this track. Friction Motorsports was still doing their events, and they were getting way more people than we were. Tracks in Oklahoma were still kind of a new concept.
Right. Because everybody at this point had really just gone to Strat for it.
Exactly. Yeah. There was I have a suspicion. Actually, pretty well. There's a couple of guys Adam, Levi, and Dylan. That while Stroud was going on, I suspect they were doing events at a different place. Not events, they were doing private days at this other place, but it was just an oval track.
Okay.
And there's only so much you can do with an oval.
Left.
It's left. You kick it,
Fishtail
kick it out on the straightaway, and you drift again. But they were doing kind of. I think I have a suspicion that they were doing some fun stuff just for them three.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I don't quite remember the timeline. I got a call, or a text maybe, from Gary, the guy who was running Friction Motorsports and keeping drifting alive very well in Oklahoma. And he wanted to have a meeting with me at his house, random day. Yeah, I think it was all through text. And I said, yeah, I can be there. It's like Tuesday at this time at like 6 o'clock, something. And I was so like in my head, like, what does he want to talk to me about? Like, is he wanting to merge and utilize? Uh-oh, what'd you do?
No, we're good. Just set an alarm to kind of keep track of time here.
What time is it?
Oh, it's 12:20, but we're good. We got time.
So essentially, I have a meeting with him, and it was him wanting to sell the business.
Oh.
He had myself in mind, or this other guy in Kansas, I believe. I don't know who it was. But we looked at the numbers, talked about pricing and the assets that would come with it. And essentially I agreed to it. And then I deployed, I remember. And while I was deployed, I think every ounce of those assets, except for one thing, got stolen from him. He had this 48-foot trailer. It was gorgeous. Had all these generators in it, just equipment that he used for the events, canopies, and all got stolen. It was horrible. So we got back. When I got back, we renegotiated to reflect the assets being gone. And in a nutshell, I bought Friction Motorsports.
Okay.
So now, effective 2017, I was essentially the only one running drift events in Oklahoma. And we had Mac Park, Oklahoma Motorsports Complex, and Stroud.
Yep.
And I was still on the hunt for other venues.
And you said that was 2016?
17.
17.
Yeah. So we went through the whole year of 16.
Yep.
Last event was like November at OMC. I deployed, came back in 17.
Yeah, we were deployed at the same time. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was plus of crew, so I left it
Yeah,
October of 16, got back in May of 17, April.
It was something in those regards.
Because I remember I had my Genesis coupe, and that was after I had done coilovers and stuff like that. And I actually drifted. I did the mic thing, and I drifted my daily driver at like 2 or 3 of your events.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that was. I didn't realize. I thought you were like a lot more. I don't want to say established, but I thought you'd been kind of doing the same thing for a while. When I jumped in there, I didn't know that was all really new.
Yeah. So I always, for the first while, I tried to put on this kind of front of like this very professional business, and it was professional.
Did you pass it well? Because I had no idea that this was like all brand new. I thought you'd been doing this for a hot minute. You know?
No, I mean, this was all very bootstrapped.
Yeah, super under construction.
Yeah, very.
I had no idea.
But we learned as we went, improved processes, now we do credit cards.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it sounds dumb to say because it's like, well, no shit. But like at the time, church events were almost
Just all cash. Yeah.
You had to bring cash and hope, that we had the correct change. So 2017 comes around, and I'm pretty sure the first event I was deployed for, like we thought we were getting home on this day, but it got pushed back.
Yeah.
And
Always.
Garrett Shirey and Gary, the guy I bought it from, they had to kind of run the event for me.
Oh, man.
But it was a Stroud, and that was Gary's.
That's easy.
Yeah, it's easy money. It was just another day for him.
Yeah.
He ran those events really well. And then we kind of throughout 17, It was another learning year because Oklahoma was doing drift events at multiple places now. We had 3 places that had never been done, to my knowledge, at least.
Just rotating these tracks monthly.
Yeah, kind of every month. I didn't want to stay stagnant. There was one time, I think in 17 or 18, I wanted to test the waters to see how frequent I could do drift events, because I was flirting with the timelines of how far out. Is it a month apart?
Right.
3 weeks?
Do you want to wait and draw the biggest crowd, or do you want to draw a smaller crowd and do it more frequent?
Right.
What's more lucrative?
So I remember I had 3 drift events from weekend to weekend to weekend.
Oh my God.
And then as you can imagine, the first one was great. Second one wasn't so great. Third one I lost money on.
Yeah.
I was like, well, all right, lesson learned. Cool.
Dude, you must have been so burnt out after that month. Oh my God. I can't imagine doing that.
It was taxing, and I didn't realize at the time. I had a lot of help from my parents. They run the front gate, the money and everything. I was asking a lot of them. I didn't realize at the time. They were super supportive, and I can never thank them enough. But they were having to come up from Lawton to the Stroud. It's about a 2.5-hour drive.
Yeah.
And help me do these events. I was paying them what I could. But
that's cool that they were there and showed up and supported you. I don't think a lot of, if you tell your parents, hey, I want to hold a drift event, they're going to look at you like you're crazy.
Oh, I got all the talks, all the liability and this, and that. What happens if this?
Parents don't want to hear that.
Yeah. But once they came to a couple, they got super invested into it. And, they loved, meeting people and becoming regulars. And then, my mom doesn't really care about cars. My dad, I grew up going to the dirt track with him.
Yeah.
So he's a gearhead. So it was cool for him to see this type of racing, because he's 66 now.
Yeah.
But in his time, drifting wasn't a thing. It was all big blocks, big slicks, and big power. That was so.
That's what Oklahoma is drag racing a dirt track.
Yeah,
this bringing drifting in the South, Midwest, whatever you want to call it, is a very, very new thing for this area.
It is. And so I actually forced retired them this year.
Okay.
Was able to do that with a merger that we'll get to. But yeah, so 2017, we kind of just ran regular events, and I was just learning as I went and learning about how to pick up sponsors for the series and how to establish relationships. And essentially, I think in 2018, I think we started a mini competition series. It was
a point series.
Yeah, it was just a point series, local Joes. You could have a Bone Stock Miata. You could have a Von Gittin Jr. could have showed up. Like, we were all just lumped into one. That went okay. Running a competition versus a fun day, 2 different animals.
Oh, very much,
2 different beasts. The competitions require so much manpower, so much.
Because you have judges and you're trying to time everything. You're trying to get all the fun run people in there, trying to give them time to justify spending the day pass, but you're trying to hold this competition too, where there are people who are more motivated to be successful with this avenue.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so hard to balance that.
2017, 2018, they were very fluid, those 3 tracks. I think in 2018, or it was 19, I don't quite remember. It was 18, yeah. We gained access to a track in Tulsa, and it was JRP Speedway.
I remember that. You did one event there.
One event.
Because they're grass, right?
Yeah, so the owner, Alf, awesome guy, nicest guy I've ever met. Man, he's super cool. He's got quite an extensive racing background as well. He was mostly with BMW and road racing, but he had this go-kart track. And it was super windy, twisty. And on the property as well, there was an oval track. He let us, I had to meet with him like 7 or 8 times to convince him. He told me no so many times, and I finally was able to convince him to let us do an event there. And he's a big gearhead himself, but that man cares so much about the lawn and the infield grass. It looks like a golf course. He keeps it so well maintained. And it was literally the perfect storm, almost quite literally. The night before the event, it rained 1 inch of rain.
Okay.
So boom, wake up morning of the event, everything's sopping wet. There was puddles in the track. There was no dirt. It was all mud.
Yep.
So now I bring out all these grassroots drifters and on a tight track too. And as you can imagine, a lot of them go off track. It's the nature of the business with drifting.
Right. So grassroots is just entry level. Anyone can come. You're not licensed. I could go buy a Miata with zero driving experience and show up to his event and drive.
Yep.
So tight track, chaos.
Yeah, it's a lot of skills. We had awesome drivers like Ben Kraft, Zach Ferris, Zach Dyson, and then we had some guys who I'm pretty sure got their license that day.
Yeah.
So a lot of people went off track and just annihilated the grass. And then there was also some other miscommunications that happened behind the scenes with timing of when to be on the property and off the property. The whole thing just didn't really work out well for either of us. We did get an offer to use their oval track for future events. But I talked to some community members that were seasoned. I lean on Zach Dyson a lot and Adam Chambers for advice. But the oval, there's only so much you can do.
It's very uneventful for drifting.
It is. It's from everyone I've talked to that have drifted that oval now, because there is a group doing that oval. Everyone I've talked to about it says, yeah, it's cool for 5 laps for one set of tires, and there's only so much you can do.
Right.
And then there's an argument that was going around that if we paved the infield of that oval, we'd have more stuff to do. But even then, there's only so much you can do.
Then you're essentially back to a skid pad, which you have locally, so it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, the only cool thing with oval is that there's a bank and a wall. But
True.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a 4th gen Camaro that got totaled on that wall.
Ooh.
I mean, the walls are cool when you want to slide your rear end on it and scrape the wall. But it's another game when you snap steer and he'll head on into it. Now you got a whole problem and liabilities. I don't think they're doing events there anymore. But so yeah, we did an event at JRP Speedway, and we never went back. I had a meeting with the owner after that, and we kind of just both agreed, like, this just isn't going to work from what I was able to offer and what he wanted. He's used to a very high level of driving, like supercars,
right,
and very prestigious leagues of racing,
right.
And then here I am, this little grassroots entity of hooligans, and
right.
It just wasn't a good fit. I know some others have tried to do events there, and I think they've gotten turned away too for this exact reason. But in the rest of 2018 was kind of just OMC, Mac Park, Stroud, the one JRP.
Right.
And then 2019 was one of my favorite years.
You locked in a track down south, correct?
I did. And it was so fun.
Indoor venue?
It was. To my knowledge, and I could be wrong, we did the first grassroots drift event indoors.
I cannot imagine what that sounded like.
With every entry, whether you're a driver or spectator, I had to give away a set of foamy earplugs.
You steal those from the shop?
No, I acquired them legally. Every time that they get a wristband, we hand them a set of orange and green foamies.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like even outside was a lot. You have these straight pipe V8s and turbocharged high output built cars, just not a single catalytic converter on the premises, like just ear spray everywhere.
Yeah,
Especially, God, who had that? Was it an FRS? Everyone was telling that kid to put a freaking muffler on his car. You remember that?
Alex. I don't. There's so many loud cars now. It's
Yeah.
hard to lump them all in. But
Anyways, indoor event, absolute chaos.
to my knowledge, it was the first indoor drift event. I know there's some videos of guys drifting in abandoned malls and warehouses and this
That's
and that, more on a
nuts.
pro level.
Yeah.
I know that indoor drifting's been done, but I don't think it was offered.
It's not an event. It's like a private gymkhana
Yeah.
thing where these people do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's very controlled, but like this was an indoor event where you can come and just get your wristband and drive. Like you can.
Did they have
show
like
up.
stands like on either side?
Yeah, so
That had to
this
be nerve wracking for
this
the
whole-
drivers to have an audience like that.
when you're driving, you're not really concerned about. You're focused on where your car is going, not who's watching you. But so this venue, it was one of those buildings where they do like RV and boat shows and a rodeo and a monster trucks this day and a car show. It's just a big floor. So they set up cattle barriers between the cars and the stands,
Okay.
and they work. Oh man, and it makes sense if they can keep a 2,000-pound bull from ripping through into the crowd,
Right.
they can stop this little 350Z, and it was tested.
Right.
We had a car slam into it pretty good, and it just kind of shook the barrier, and the car was like, "Oh, sucks to be you." But yeah, that in that building, it was deafeningly loud. It was miserable, but there were 7 fans. They were 8 feet in diameter.
Wow.
Along the walls, and that was what was helping pull the
The
smoke out.
exhaust. I didn't even. Yeah, and the smoke. I didn't
Yeah,
think about
all that had to come out.
Oh wow.
And it was cool because when that's where I actually met Josh Love and West Moya, I think it's his name. They were Wes was chasing an FD license, and I believe Josh Love, that was his rookie year in pro spec, I believe, and they showed up. And this was big for me because I had never had a Formula Drift driver come to my events. It's just Oklahoma doesn't have any at the time. And then when they went out there, oh my God, there was so much smoke. It was kind of fun. They would throw so much smoke that you could peek your head outside
Just watch it build.
and watch it, just those fans just bellow it out. Like
That'd
it was
be
just like
insane.
you open up your grill after having a bunch of ribs on there. Just
Right.
oh,
That's so cool. We are kind of coming up on time here. What just to kind of wrap this up here, moving forward in the 2023 in the future, what do you hope to achieve with Full Lock? Where do you want to be, and what are you kind of working towards?
so
Like bigger crowds, more venues.
So, in a big nutshell, in 2018, I had a mentor. I'll remain him anonymous for various reasons, who was essential for where we are today in driving my mindset. He knows who he is. And 2023, late last year, prepping for 2023, I onboarded Daniel Stuckey, Formula Drift Pro 1 driver, and Robert Thorne, Pro 1 driver. And they have equity share in Full Lock Drift now.
That's insane. That's huge.
It was big.
That's so cool, man.
I recognized in 2022 I had plateaued from where my imagination could take this business, where my willpower wanted to take this business, my time, and I needed to expand the community. And that was to bring on a fresh set of eyes and ears from people who have done many, many, many grassroots events and at a pro level as well. So 2023 is our first year with them. And with them, they bring on, so Daniel Stuckey is part owner of this M-Spec Motorsports. And M-Spec is the mastermind behind the I guess mechanics, if you will, of it is Matt Zabrowski, Zebra Cakes. I don't know how you say his name. He's an awesome guy. And Casey Cole. And those three, they run M-Spec Motorsports. And it's weird. In 2023, we gained... Is that your phone?
I don't know what that was. That was weird. Whatever, audited it out. We're good.
We gained so many Formula Drift drivers in Oklahoma. It was wild. There was just this massive influx.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came to the events and they wanted to be a part of the community and share their wealth of knowledge. And they still do to this day. You can message any of these guys, Instagram, Facebook, they'll message you back, like whatever you want. So having all these FD drivers was super fun and super awesome because it's really growing our community and boosting it very quickly to where it needs to be in contingency with other series. We did in 2021 or 22, I don't remember, 21. We became one of 10 licensing series for Formula Drift.
That's amazing. So
essentially what that means, you can get a license to get into Formula Drift through us. You sign up for our Pro-Am series, and whoever our top, it depends on the year, our top 3 winners for 2021 got a license. There's some logistics to that. If you know, you know. But this year, if you win our series, we're about to have our final round here in a couple weeks. The winner of that is guaranteed a license into Formula Drift Pro Spec. So, and then second and third, we are going to submit packages of why we think they should be considered for a license, but that's not guaranteed. We submit a packet of how we've seen these people act on track, their team, their racing program. And it's up to FD to get back with them to see if they want to award them or not. But going forward, we plan, there's some big things happening that we can't digress yet. Some new venues potentially happening in eastern Oklahoma.
It's always exciting.
It is. It's not a guaranteed thing by any means. But I also can't say too much. So 2023, we're trying to get through this year. Our goal is the 3 of us are trying to learn how to mesh together as business owners. And we're figuring out from event to event to event, and from the drift schools to drift schools as well. I got one tomorrow, actually, in about 24 hours. The goal overall is to make these events bigger and more festival-like without taking away from the drifting. Drifting will always be the sole focus of it. And we're trying to bring more towards the spectators.
Okay, make it more of an experience to show up and be involved.
Like some live music, more vendors,
okay,
more food. Essentially, kind of what Formula Drift does.
Okay,
if you've ever been to a Formula Drift event, there are so many booths you can walk around. You can talk to drivers.
Being a spectator is just as exciting as being a driver.
Exactly. Yeah. We're trying to get more towards that. And it kind of starts with Howlett. That was another fun one I forgot to mention. That was a super fun track to drift on. But Howlett and Remington is kind of our focus for the festivals, if you will.
Yeah, they're great venues to support that.
It is. They have the room, the capacity, the infrastructure as well. Those types of things take a lot of planning with electricity and this and that, lights. But yeah, that's kind of our plan going forward. We will continue to have grassroots drifting will be first and foremost. Then that kind of rolls into our Pro-Am. We love sending people into Formula Drift as we can. And then essentially just kind of pivot where we need to as things come up, as venues are lost, as venues are gained. and just keep making it kind of
Keep providing the experience that people seek, the excitement, and just keep building on that.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome, man. If anybody's interested in Full Lock, vendors, drivers, people who are interested in going to your events, where can they find more about your brand?
Best place, the website. It's a contact thing on there, or
What's the website?
fulllockdrift.com, or email me personally, Mike at fulllockdrift.com. It's a little weird to type out because there's 3 L's in a row. FULLLOCK. But yeah, shoot me a direct email. We can schedule a phone call. I got 3 phone calls to make after this from some guys wanting to do some stuff.
Shoot.
But we do private events, private schools, public schools, the regular drift events. We can show you how to drive a manual transmission. We can put you in a Formula Drift and everything in between. That's kind of our goal as a one-stop shop, if you will, aside from actually like tuning your cars and stuff. But we do know people that tune, and we can get you pointed in the right direction, at least if you having car problems or if you want to know just really anything.
You have the resources to really envelop somebody into the drifting
100%.
lifestyle.
We have enough resources to take a 14-year-old kid, which we are doing now, and groom him potentially, if he wants, to be in Formula Drift in a matter of years.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so 2023 going into 24, that's kind of our plan. I've been super blessed. I've, you were there actually. I've been recently married.
Yep.
To Lindsay.
Congrats on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you were there. You were there for the.
I shot your Tinder photos and I shot your engagement
I never
photos.
had a Tinder, but I know what you're. Yeah, those professional photos I wanted. Yeah, when I proposed to Lindsay at Hefner, cliche.
It's just what you do in Oklahoma. You go to
That was the first place we had a date. We went and fed ducks there.
I'm
It's
just
super
giving
sappy, but I had him there to capture the moment that I proposed to my now wife, she actually, not a lot of people know, but she's been a huge, I guess, benefit to this community because she provides me with so much support that I'm able to give back more into the community, whether she's taking care of things at home, supporting me emotionally. She's been just super amazing, and her family is awesome too. They like the sport. They think it's interesting. I've gotten nothing but support from them, and it's been super, super awesome. I got really lucky when I married her, and I was very thankful you were able to capture those photos.
Yeah, for sure. That was awesome. Well, man, we are super over time on this.
What can you do?
I appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Coming out here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's hope maybe we can do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
A couple of years. So cool.
Awesome. Well, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I feel like putting this on YouTube, I'm obligated to say that. Like and subscribe.
Hey,
So cringy. I hate it. But yeah, this will be available on YouTube, obviously, and Spotify as well if you're watching on one of the other platforms. So trying to do this weekly. Thank you, everyone, for supporting and giving us a watch, and go check out Full Lock Drift.
See you guys.